Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. Angron may not be a trap. We've got a video on all the new units coming up next. Stay tuned. All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. We've got Jack and Dara back here again today to talk about all the, I suppose, new, for want of a better word, units that we've seen in the Warhammer Plus Battle Report just gone out this week. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm good. A little bit sad my Demon Prince is delayed, but good. Built.
Nice,
I'll
good
do more
stuff.
stuff this week.
You got that Demon Prince from Element Games, right? Where you can
I
get a
do.
lovely
Through, through
ship
RFP, I
panel.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful. Go buy your Chaos stuff from there when the World Leagues come out. Hopefully
Please,
next week. We'll
hopefully,
find out soon.
hopefully on Bruno next week, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, so the topic of today's video, we're kind of going through all the new content that's come out from Warhammer Plus on the Battle Report this week about the World Leaders. So today we're going to be talking about the units that were in the Battle Report. We're going to briefly summarize the abilities and the rules that we saw. Now, we don't have a full picture on everything necessarily just yet, but we're going to go through what we do know, and then if you want to stick around and hear our thoughts, we're going to kind of discuss them in a bit of a deeper dive after that. So Jack is going to run us through the units, and then I will give you my reasoning, my full 180 as to why I think Angron may actually not be a trap after all. He might actually be semi-decent, but we'll have to get to that when we get there. So Jack,
Okay.
why don't you start us off?
So to preface, the battle report was listed as a 2,000 points match play mission. We've done the maths, and we reckon the list probably comes out to around 1950 based on the leaks sheet that we got ages ago, the one that set the internet on fire. So keep that in mind. Points may have moved around a bit. We might have missed a few upgrades here and there, but I think we were fairly as accurate as we could be.
It's pretty close, right? It's
Yeah.
what it's come out as.
So,
It's pretty
so,
close.
so we're assuming the points values on that sheet are roughly what we're getting. Maybe we'll get the free vehicle
Yep.
upgrades and the troop upgrades, but we'll see. So let's start with the big man himself, Furious Ronald, Esquire. So
The third.
the third. So Warcom have obviously previewed his stat line. There's nothing new there. He had 2-up save. We got confirmation that he does indeed have a 4-up invuln save. Who knew? He moves 16. He's got the big sweep, so 39 attacks or 13 on the charge with the sweep or smash. Hilariously, his lower bracket seems to be 11 attacks instead of 12. So on 8 wounds, he has 11 attacks. Great.
Yep.
One new bit that we did get was he has an ability in the command phase called Lord of the Arena, which is basically just chapter master rerolls, so a full rerolls to hit on characters or core, 1 unit within 6 inches, which was a little bit unexpected because he's not known for his leadership, I guess, but maybe it's inspiration, who knows.
Yeah, I think the name was called like Lord of the Arena or
Yeah,
something. So I'm like, right, okay.
So then we also got a glimpse of the other thing that Warcom previewed, which was Wrathful Presence. So you pick one of 3 6-inch auras in the command phase to be in effect for the rest of the battle round. Sorry. So +1 attack to core units within 6 inches, pretty good. Bureau wants to hit for World Eaters units, not just core. So demon engines, good shit like that. Anyone thinking about Uraka meme plays, you can do it with him now if you want. And a 6-inch aura of no fallback for all units, friend or foe. So we'd seen that stuff before. I think the Lord of the Arena was the new bit. Confirmation on a few other bits that we hadn't necessarily confirmed. So the Invuln aura, the Invuln, and the Lord of the Arena rule.
Yeah, and I suppose seeing the blood type mechanic in action
Yes,
and understanding
getting confirmation of the cost of the res as well. We
Yep.
got into that a little bit in our blood type video, but yeah, getting confirmation of how he interacts with the rest of the army, I guess, was nice.
So nothing revolutionary for Angron.
Nothing too revolutionary, which is a little bit disappointing, but we can get onto that later. So then Khorne, our boy Khorne, who has struggled a little bit since he lost his 1-inch aura of full rerolls to hit. So he has a new rule called Legendary Killer, which is a 6-inch aura of reroll 1 to wound for core units. So he is basically a lieutenant now. A very, very killy lieutenant who it looks like he's probably staying the same strength, so he's probably strength 6 or 7, not 8, because he wasn't wounding stuff on 2s, I don't think. He has 10 attacks, he is AP 4, and he is now flat damage 3. Having been D3 damage and then 2 damage, both of which are trash, he is now flat damage 3, which is pretty good. So, and we expect him to be about 140 points. So,
which I believe is what the leak says as well.
Which is what the leak says, which is what he is at the moment, and he literally just gets better. So, we didn't really see how the Betrayer rule works, if he still has it or not, because I think he, spoilers, died really quick. So, it never really came up, I don't think. But that flat damage 3 is obviously the main talking point there, I think, and confirmation of the lieutenant would reroll aura, which was something that was leaked rumored a while ago. So then the third HQ in the battle report was a Lord on Juggernaut, not Invocatus, just a normal Lord on Juggernaut. And it was something that I didn't know, but I didn't know that the Lord on Juggernaut was rumoured to be getting the plus 2-inch move within 6 inches aura for core units. Apparently it was in one of the early leaks or rumours. I didn't know that, so it was a nice surprise for me when they said that he had it. Makes him quite versatile. Also confirmation he goes up to 8 stacks on the charge, meaning he's probably 7 base. And then he gets 3 from the Juggernaut, which is different to the Demon's Juggernauts. I think they get 4, but I think it's lower strength and less AP or something. Although Malefic as well. It shakes out about the same, I think. So that's kind of fine. Some big talking points next. So we'll move into troops. The Jackals, we didn't really get much on them because they died really fast. So we didn't really see any of their abilities. But Berzerkers, looking to be 6 stacks on the charge, which is what they are at the moment. AP2, which is what they are at the moment. Everyone assumes they're AP3 because the icon makes them AP3 and you always take the icon at the moment, but they are AP2. So that's unchanged, and it looks like the icon no longer gives extra AP because they were hitting at AP2 for the whole game. The big thing for Berzerkers is a rule called Blood Surge. So when a model dies as a result of a shooting attack, you can choose to make a d6 move towards the closest enemy target. It's worded so that you have to go directly towards the closest enemy target. There's no way to game it, like piling, consolidation, that kind of thing. Any actions they're doing fail if you choose to do it, and they must move directly towards the enemy unit. They can end in engagement range, which is hilarious, but they don't count as charging. However, if it's in the opponent's turn, you fight before them anyway. So
it's actually a good thing.
It is, yeah.
Like if you're running into combat, it kind of ends up being useful because you kind of get fight first.
If it's useful to use in the opposition shooting phase for that. I think there are some other things that we talked about that where it is also very useful in your turn. So if you lose a model to Auspex scans because that's a shooting attack, you can get closer out to deep strike, making your charge shorter than 9 inches. And if you get a model destroyed on Overwatch, you can shorten your charges. Although obviously you don't want to do it on charges that are over like under 6 or under, I guess, when you're within 7 inches, because then you'll end up in engagement range and you won't get the benefits of charging, and they'll find.
Yeah, you need to be a little bit careful about using that one, right?
It makes long bomb charges, if they're going to Overwatch, quite a lot better. Although I feel like a lot of better players will just not Overwatch unless they know they're going to kill the squad.
Exactly. Exactly. But we're going to talk about that.
We'll talk about that in a bit more detail. So then finally the Elite's choices. We have 8-bound and we have Exalted 8-bound. Start with the Exalted 8-bound, so limited to a unit of 3. We have confirmation they can go in Land Raiders, which is good. I'd expect them to take 2 or 3 slots. It looks like they get 16 attacks on the charge from the 3 of them. Weapon skill 2, AP 4, damage 2, and strength 8 minimum. I think that was with the Eviscerator profile rather than the Chain Fist profile. Because we had the rumours are that they have a Chain Fist profile, which basically puts them strength 10, but is, I believe, slightly fewer attacks. But I don't know. Because the rumours are that it's damage 2 and that you can add a second Chain Fist on the champion to make it damage 3. I don't know how true that is, and it wasn't.
The 8-bound, the 8-bound leaks and rumours have been the things that have been wrong the most. In terms of
I feel like they've been changed quite a lot because.
Yeah, I think the people who are leaking stuff about the 8-bound are kind of like, we have sort of an idea of what they're leaking, and we're going to fill in the blanks with possessed. And it's not really translating, because like we heard all the stuff about the pregame move. We heard lots of different things about their attack profiles, about a glaive that keeps guys in combat. We haven't really seen any of that translate, so
I could see.
I'm waiting to see their data sheet.
I could see an earlier iteration of Bloodsent having been the pregame move, though. So we'll get on to 8 bounds, which is they had 6 attacks each in the second round of combat, which looks like 7 attacks on the charge each. That's the eviscerator profile as well. So strength. Strength 8 minimum, AP 4, damage 2. Pretty good for killing Marines. But the normal 8 bounder at weapon skill 3. There's also potential that the Exalted 8 bounder 4 up invuln. They had something in the preview that was like Exalted Demon, Exalted Ascension or something like that. But I'm not sure I really saw it come in. I am currently in the process of my second watch.
I don't believe so. Yeah, I think when they died, basically the Exalted 8 band, it was summarized, right? It wasn't. They didn't show the dice rolling or anything. But there was like a little thing at the start talking about how they are like more resilient than your typical demon or something like that. So yeah, it's possible that there is some creative truth to that 4+ invulnerable save.
I think that would be, with a small unit of 3. I think that makes them a bit more viable as well.
Yeah, they need some way of justifying the 5 points per model extra.
Yeah. So then 8 bounds. So back to the 8 bounds. 6 attacks on the eviscerator profile by the looks of it. They do have a rule called Bloodsent, which was shown off in the battle report, although not very well, I don't think. Basically, they can arrive 1 turn only from strat reserves, so they count the turn as being 1 higher for the purposes of strat reserves. So they can arrive in turn 1 from like most board edges, and then they can arrive turn 2 from the opposition board edge, which is pretty good. Not quite pre-game move, but it's still pretty good. And there are instances where it's better. Stuff like the automatic scan play with. Oh no, I guess you don't have blood surge on it. Never mind. And then, so I guess the last thing to say as well is that the Blood Tithe wording explicitly excludes Agents of Chaos, so you can run Agents of Chaos with Blood Tithe. So Abaddon, if he's your Warlord, is an Agent of Chaos. You can run a Demons Patrol up to 25% of your power level, and they will get the Agents of Chaos keyword. And you can run a Dreadblade detachment, so Chaos Knights, and they will get the Agents of Chaos keyword. So you can run all of that and still get Blood Tithe, which is good to know. Because
surprising, but good to know.
We've been talking about War Dogs in the Discord at least, and maybe some Flesh Hounds, or maybe some Flesh Hounds, I guess. But yeah, so that's all the stuff we've managed to pick out of the Warhammer Plus Battle Report. Dara, what jumps out at you?
Initially, I would say the most interesting thing in there was the Berzerkers, kind of how they operate now, like what your typical Berzerker unit is these days, because the ability to move after being shot is incredibly powerful, I think, for a variety of different reasons. Like you can create all these sort of interactions in your head where you're like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that. Like, you know, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, cool. Like, you know, start getting shot, I'll move into cover, move out of line of sight, blah, blah, whatever. And then I was like, oh, wait, this works in Overwatch. And it also works in Auspex Scan, which is like, you know, you're seeing all these other incredible, we'll say, setups that can happen. And then you have to start thinking about, like, how can you really use this ability, right? Because, like, you can kind of set your Berzerkers up in such a way where it's like, if I'm going to get shot, I can potentially work it in an angle where I'm going to be moving onto an objective, or I'm going to be moving in behind a rune or something like that. So the play then becomes this really interesting back and forth between you and your opponent of who's going to move smarter to leverage the Berzerker's, I suppose, ability. The thing is, you don't have to do this if you get shot, which is important. I know in previous versions of this rule, it was like the Khorne's Electric Football, where the Berzerkers had to move. So you could actually get them to move off the table and just kill themselves, basically. But you don't have to do it now, which is good. So the onus is on you to kind of set it up in such a way that you can utilize this to the best of your ability. So a savvy opponent is going to be able to kind of use their own movement phase to negate this as much as possible. But there are going to be instances where you can kind of pigeonhole them into a situation where they kind of have to do something that's going to work out for you either way. So I think it's not necessarily the ability itself being so insanely powerful. It's more that it's another thing in our army which forces your opponent to move in specific ways to make certain decisions. It's giving you the agency to set up and move the way that you want to and put the pressure on your opponent, especially when we have things like fight on death as a stratagem and heroic intervention for 6 inches as a stratagem. When you combine those elements together, it really gives us like this level of agency that we never had before. I feel like it's an agency that Custodes had, right? When you would be playing Custodes, it's like so oppressive trying to play around those certain things. But now we have those abilities, and it's on a unit which realistically no one's bringing less than 2 or 3 squads in their army, right? It's the keystone unit for us. It's so fantastic that this ability is on our main troop slot, and the fact that it is, yeah, I was just going to say the fact that it is on a troop slot that is OBSEC and has the combat output potential that it does. Like, even if you think about it, where it's like they can get shot and you can move forward, which might actually end up putting you within 6-inch heroic intervention range of an enemy unit, and it's things like that, right?
Yeah, you can have them go 12 inches in the opposition turn, which is
exactly,
amazing.
exactly,
and
yeah.
Before like consolidations,
before pylons and consolidations, it's incredible. Like that's what I'm saying. There's every time you think about it, there's a new situation that you're like, oh, you can do that as well, right? And for 22 points a model. Sure.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
I think the point to note though is the combat output does look to have been toned down a little bit from Berserkers. Like obviously, I think I'm not. I hope this isn't a hot take or a controversial opinion, but I think the Berserker output from our 1 wound iteration to our 2 wound iteration did go down a little bit just because of champion equipment. Obviously, the output is more reliable because it's all in 1 activation rather than 2, less vulnerable to interrupts, all that stuff.
I guess we do have the option for these new eviscerators, though, right? Which are power fit minus.
But
so
I think, well, I'm not sure if they are without the minus. I didn't see that. I wasn't paying attention close enough. I think the rumors.
I'm pretty sure they were
without
yeah.
minus. Okay. So that's good, but and so that like kind of makes up for it. But I think we've lost a bit of AP as well, right? Between our current iteration and what.
But you can get it back with warp blades on the blood type.
You can, but I don't. I ran the math. We can talk about this in our speculation video. I ran the maths on the blood tides, and that's not the best one. Like you say.
There are better ones.
Right? So instead.
Yeah. I don't think the killing potential is down like so much that I'm really concerned about it.
No, it's not down so much. I just think we're going to have to adjust, like in our heads. I'm going to send 5 Berserkers into that squad. It's going to die. Now I think maybe it won't die. So.
Yeah, well, we do have that stratagem for just spinning mortal wounds as well.
Yeah, we do. Which
does help.
It's 1 CP on troops as well, isn't it? So.
Which I feel like you're probably going to use if you are putting Berserkers into a situation where you're like, maybe they're not necessarily going to get the work done here. But yeah, they would be a unit from the battle report anyway that really jumped out to me as being like, wow, these guys are tapped. I think pushed is not really too dramatic a word for what Berserkers are going to be.
So I think they're going to be quite a high skill ceiling unit now. Because I think if you just use Blood Surge whenever you can, not going to work. I would also query, Berserkers aren't that hard to kill, right? Even if we get some of the Blood Tide stuff off, they're not that hard to kill. So if we're running small squads, it might be that our first casualty is also our last. Like
exactly. I think it incentivizes medium to big sized squads, which kind of works against the blood type. Yeah. So it is. Yeah. It's an interesting. Like, it's good that you have to make that choice, right?
Yeah, it is. I think
what it does do is it discourages small arms and incidental fire going into Berserkers, which for me was the most annoying thing to lose Berserkers too. When it's like, oh my god, are you kidding me? Like 2 las guns like kills a Berserker, like that was infuriating. But now your opponent is probably like, oh, I don't really want to shoot those things into them because they're just going to move towards me. You know?
I think what you're saying about you being able to control their your movement and your opponent's like where your opponent is thinking about going, because it makes across 2 player turns. Not even like just 2 bat rounds, across 2 player turns, it makes their threat range fucking like 18,
really big.
18 plus potentially 8 plus another D6 maybe plus like a 12-inch charge. Like it's long. Like now,
they like there's situations in which the Berserkers can move very, 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 very far.
People are gonna have to be careful about, right? And I think it'll be getting the most out of your Berserkers will be. Your opponent will have to be very careful about what he shoots or how he like layers his defenses, their defenses, against your berserkers. So if they're shooting your berserkers and they're like, oh, this is the closest unit, they have to go straight towards them, making sure that that's something that they don't mind them going straight towards, kind of thing.
And sometimes it can be good because your opponent could target a unit in that way, where they're like, I'll tease you into this like 20-man unit of Gaunts, but like they might not necessarily all die, right? And then it's like they're targeted for your turn as well.
But that's kind of where the choice on our side. That's where the skill comes in on our side, right? As well, is choosing. Not to do
it's just on your opponent being able to read you and say like, oh, I can probably bait this guy into this kind of a thing, you know.
So
it's
really
cool.
Like
it's all psyop.
I really like the nuance. It's great.
I think you're very correct in saying they're like a high skill ceiling unit now, which is awesome. Like
to get the absolute most out of, I think so.
Yeah, which I really was not expecting from like in my mind, like basic unit in terms of like their previous utility. Where well, I suppose not necessarily basic before. With the double activation, there was a lot you could do, but like I wouldn't have been shocked if GW designed them to be a very kind of like cardboard cutout guys
really
going. Exactly. It wouldn't have shocked me, but seeing that this is where we're at with them is awesome because like our Keystone Troop unit being really diverse and really interesting to play around with is just tons of fun, especially with the stratagem like support structure around them is awesome too.
I think incentivizing berserkers with really cheap strats as well is awesome. I think
so what jumped out for you, Jack? that wasn't the berserkers as well.
So I mean, I'm gonna have to say Angron, right? He looks really good in the battle report. There are reasons why I think this is, and I think that Angron still may be a trap, but I can definitely see play around him. Obviously, he's a fucking beast. Like, he has so many attacks.
I think there was one point in the battle report that he did 40 damage to a Dreadnought.
Yes, there was, and that was with the smash, I think.
The smash,
So he either does. It's either strength 15 on the charge, -4, D3 +3.
I believe that is it. Yeah.
13 attacks at his top profile, or it's 39 attacks at strength 10, -3, 1 damage. It's excessive. Like 39 attacks. I'd have to use all the dice I generally take to the tournament for one round of attacks for Angron for that.
Yeah, which is awesome. I also it didn't even occur to me really that like things like warp blades would bring that sweep to AP4. So he just carves up Marines, no problem. Like, can you imagine sending him into like 2 units of Sisters? Just goodbye. Like, they're gone.
The only thing that makes me a little bit sad about him is that stuff with the 4-pin bond is going to suck. Like, it's going to suck bouncing off stuff.
It depends. It depends. With the amount of attacks he has, you'll push through the 4+.
But I'm just thinking about, like, you send him in something like, I don't know, like Black Lord Terminators or something, who are T5, so you're hitting on 2s, winning on 2s, but then they have 4-pin bond. So that's like...
I still think you kill them all, right? So, like, okay, let's quick math it out, right? So you've got
10. Then,
yeah. 39. Right? Yeah, 39 attacks you're going to hit with 36, assuming full you put the rerolls on them.
Yeah. Well,
and then you're going to...
Hitting on 2s full rerolls is 100%, right? You get 39.
Yes, okay, you're correct, yeah. So you probably get 36 wins through, and they're saving on 18, 4s. So... Yeah, and so that means you kill... 6, what is that? Yeah. Which is pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. I guess, it just feels...
I mean, you're forcing morale at that point as well.
I don't know, it feels like he should
he's also considering, like, you haven't done the Mortal Wound stratagem, or he doesn't have exploding 6s up, or X, Y, and Z. And, like, if you are putting Angron into 10 Blight Lords, you are going to fuel him with something, right? You're not going to give him nothing.
Yeah.
So the 6 Mortal Wounds will take out another 1.5 Blight Lords, and if you've got exploding 6s up as well, you're probably taking pretty much the squad at that point.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's pretty good.
I
think the thing...
It's the synergy, isn't it?
For me, it's like the risk is...
I need to get
it's because it's never just that, right?
Like now is something that you have to factor into everything.
Exactly, but it's hard to factor it into everything as well because you can never assume that it's necessarily up.
Yes,
exactly. So raw Angron might kill 6, which is still pretty good.
He's
gonna be
hype. I'm so
My
hyped.
worry is when he goes into like things like big knights that haven't involved in combat, because
Oh
you're obviously
yeah,
going to do
like
the
Vale,
smash.
Vale of Metrongard or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's less. It's a lot scarier then. I think.
Because it's, I mean, we can do the maths on that as well, right? I mean, you did the maths a while ago and
I,
said that
I
you
did the
probably
maths.
wouldn't
Yeah,
kill one with a
it
5 up
it's
invuln, right?
touch and go. If they've got a 5 up invuln, it's pretty touch and go.
Because on the charge you'll have you do the smash presumably again. Oh, it
You
depends.
no,
I
you do the
guess
smash. You do the
you
smash
do the
for
smash.
sure.
So 13
Yeah,
attacks.
if you do the sweep against a regular knight with no invuln, it does not die.
Yeah, but so you do.
um,
But I mean, like to be honest, the smash, hitting on twos, 4 rerolls, assuming he put it on himself. Winning
yeah,
on threes still because he's only strength 15, and most big knights. It's tough to say now. It'll go to the invuln. So that's 30.
yeah. So he'll have 8 or 9 to
And then it's D3 plus 3,
save.
I guess is the big thing.
Yeah, see what I mean? Like it's how you roll those D3s, and it's like, do they spike the 5 up on the invuln, and how do you
Sorry.
spike down on your
Too soon.
D3s? Like,
Too soon. Too soon. I had
but
someone roll a
that's
lot of
5
saves.
5 ups are such a spiker, you know. So that's what I mean. It's a little bit
Yeah.
scary. Now, however, in that situation, you do probably bring a knight down to his bottom profile, and
Yeah.
he's probably locked in combat with you because you have that ability up from Angron anyway.
But
So in some instances, you don't want him to kill the knight because
so
it keeps him safe in return.
I've just realised. Yeah, I guess
Mm.
you do pick the no fallback aura, but like you could. There are plays around putting Chapter Master rerolls on something else and then doing the reroll once to hit aura because that affects Angron because it's all world eaters units.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Oh,
Berzerker.
no, it's all other
Oh,
world
is it
leader
all other?
units.
Is it world?
Yeah,
world eaters all
it's
other?
like
That's
it's
sad.
the first time it's been used, I
That's
think,
annoying.
in 40k.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
annoying.
like everyone except him, I
Right,
think.
okay. Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? But yeah,
Mm.
okay. So yeah, so the smash is hitting on twos, winning on threes, AP4, D3 plus 3 damage, so it's invulns and yeah. And then the sweep would be 39 attacks. You'd still be hitting on twos, winning on threes. Is the only thing because you'd be strength 10, so you're still wounding on threes, and then you chuck something like the mortal wound strat on, and you do another 6 more wounds on top.
Yeah, with the mortal wound strat, you are probably killing that knight every time.
But I think you only do the mortal wound strat if you do the sweep because I don't think 13 attacks is worth because you're spending 2 CP on the mortal wound strat for Angron.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
I mean, it's a bit sad that you can't take down Knight in one go, given that he caught a fucking Titan foot.
Like he can. It's just it's not. It's like it's
not a
clench
sure
butt
thing.
cheeks kind of
it's not a
moment,
sure
right? Because
thing,
you're not.
Which is
It's
a bit
pretty
sad.
close to it. Like you'd be confident, I think, is how I would describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Depends on the knight,
Yeah,
right?
I would be
Like-
confident.
like
you
her-
would not.
Herpatrax big knights have 30 wounds, so really
Yeah,
the
if it's
ones.
House Herpatrax or Veil of Medjugorje, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. And also, although I guess the full rerolls, like if you go into like a Dark Master Big Knight, just unrelated because that's definitely not recent trauma for me. If you go into a Dark Master Big Knight with no rerolls, that doesn't really affect him that much. You drop maybe like 2-3 hits, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
That's
it's
it.
not such a big deal. Yeah.
Because he's not relying on rerolls, so he's not, and even like maybe Morty with Glowing Bloat, like he's less affected by that as well, right? Because he's just got a very good raw stat line, and like people are fixating on what he doesn't have, but his raw stat line is good. Like it is just solid. Like he has a shit ton
Yeah,
of
even
attacks.
having things like a 2+ armor save is just good.
Yeah,
You know.
like his whole stat line is just good, and it looks like his bracket isn't that severe either. Like he loses
His bracket is like
one
the only
attack.
it's attack. That's the only thing that degrades. So
and he lost one.
oh, and movement. I think movement
Yeah,
goes
well,
down. Whatever.
but
He
he-
starts at 16.
He lost one attack going to 8 wounds, which is presumably his middle bracket on an 18
Yeah.
model. So like, if he goes down to 10 at like what 4 wounds, I guess is his bottom bracket, or 5 wounds is his bottom bracket. Fine, like he still hits like a freight train. Like
Yeah, his degradation profile is like not very
severe.
not like the old bloodthirster degradation profile. I'll put it like that.
No.
Like, oh, weapon skill, attacks, and movement. Nice.
Yeah. No.
The other thing I noticed about Angron after watching the battle report, he's really small.
Yeah. Easier.
He can hide behind elves.
Easier to
Really
hide than I would've
easy.
thought.
Yeah.
Which is
Like
a
I'm
big thing,
thinking.
right? Yeah.
So Broadsword in the end of February, right? An event you know and love well. I'll be attending it, and they use WDC terrain layouts, right?
Yeah.
And I know my good buddy Mike brought Magnus to it last year because he knew that he could hide Magnus behind the
Fair.
big L's.
That's fair.
So that means Angron will be super hideable in a lot of instances.
Because I think Angron's wingspan is going to be, he's a bit more compact than Morty and Magnus, I think, because their wings both sit
There was
out.
a moment where he was like facing into a Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight, and he was smaller than the Grandmaster. Yeah, the wings went a bit higher than him, but like that's amazing.
He's
There's so
wide,
much play around that.
So that's the thing. I think one of the big complaints was that he's 18 wounds, which is a really unpleasant breakpoint because he doesn't benefit from obscuring, doesn't benefit from dense, that kind of thing. But if he's easy to hide, like true line of sight wise, all good, I think.
Yeah. Between that, the fly keyword and the 16-inch movement, it's very strong. Yeah. Very, very strong.
So then, my only remaining concern about Angron would be no way to get around face caps, but that's a concern I have for the rest of our army in general.
That's not a problem exclusive to Angron.
No. So I think my initial reaction, and I mean, I guess we can talk about the Blood Tithe res as well here.
Yeah, which is actually, that's why I've come back around. Like, if people have been chatting in the Discord this week, you've probably seen me and Jack go from kind of cold to lukewarm on Angron, and I'm actually approaching tepid, if not hot, in terms of how I'm feeling about him. Because the more I think about it, and the more I talk to people about it, because it's important to have this discourse and this discussion, to hear other people's perspectives, because it's really brought me around to using his resurrection ability. And I think that there could actually be a lot of competitive play with Angron, keeping that in mind. Because, like, I think you don't necessarily realize just how much Blood Tide points that you generate until you see it happening. And I'm interested. Like, why don't you run us through your thoughts on it?
So I think resing him to get him straight back into combat, bad idea, bad plan, because you're getting an 8-inch charge, which is not something you want to rely a game plan on. And 6 Blood Tide points is expensive. Even if you do generate lows, it is still expensive, I think. And all the other buffs are army-wide and great, whereas this one just affects Angron. I like the stuff that is interesting to me is the talk about baiting like certain secondaries at the opponent, so Assassinate or Bring It Down, where they target Angron as like a big scoring piece, and then you just bring him back at the end and stick him in the far corner or whatever. That kind of stuff is interesting to me. Doing that to sit on objectives, also interesting to me. As you say, he's not that hard to hide, so being able to bring him back somewhere useful and still hidden from like the opponent's good stuff, also interesting to me. I'm more interested in the more nuanced psyops side of bringing him back rather than the haha big murder bot. He's back now, because I don't think.
I mean, that is part of the psyops, though.
It is, but I think.
Yeah.
If you shouldn't be looking for that 8-inch charge. I think you hide him, and then, as you said, even on that mid bracket, he'll be move 12, 13 or something, pretty fast. Get them on the next turn, or
that would be. That's my thought as well, is to bring him back. So typically, in my opinion, he's going to be coming back in the later half of the game, turn 3 onwards. So by that time, a lot of things will have happened. He'll probably have had your go turn, where you've put a lot of resource into killing enemy stuff, and a lot of your Blood Tide abilities are up and stuff. And I think, at least in the competitive side of things, that a lot of World Leader competitive players can resonate with the idea that you have a very big turn and you kill an awful lot of stuff, and in the following turn, you're often thinking to yourself, if I just had 1 or 2 more units, I could really close this game out. But we run thin on the ground. So if you bring Angron back in that situation, like, you have that unit to kind of close the game out, right? And my thinking is that, like, by that stage, a lot of things are probably happening in the mid board, right? There's a lot of probably trades going on there over central objectives, and your opponent has probably stopped considering screening out Angron because they have too many other things to deal with. So if you bring him back, behind one of the big L's, maybe in your own deployment zone, and you don't go for the charge because you're probably not going to make it, right? And then in the next turn you jump him out because he's safe for that turn, right? He's probably safe. And then in the next turn you jump him out, so he's engaging the opponent in maybe turn 4 or turn 5, and he could really, having a Primarch model still around in the mid board in that late game,
Yeah.
potentially picking up massive swings on secondaries or primaries or tertiaries or whatever.
Sure.
Like, I can see that resurrection mechanic winning games in that sense, because like it will just get to the point, and it's the psyops as well, where your opponent just can't, they don't have the room to consider countering Angron when they're trying to deal with so many other things, you know?
Army, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Army at that point. So yeah, I guess what we're saying then is probably, although you can spam it, which is very funny, I think you're not using that res more than once in a game. I think it's probably what we're saying.
Not in a competitive game, no. I don't think so.
It's too expensive to use more than once, I think. Yeah, so I think we...
Unless you're playing against Dark Eldar, in which case you'll probably have enough.
But yeah, I think we're dangerously close to going into our sort of where we're thinking competitively and what we're thinking about the army competitively. So I think we'll cut this one off here, and we will record another one where we go into that in a bit more depth about
Indeed,
sort of army rules that we like the look of, how we're looking to build our first lists, that kind of thing, like focal points. I don't think we'll have like, run this list, this is the list for World Eaters for the next 6 months. We're going to talk more in a more abstract way about sort of units that we like the look of, plays that we like the look of, tactics that we like the look of, basically. So
sounds great.
To that, hopefully early next week. Any closing thoughts, Dara?
I think some people might be wondering, like, you know, how come you guys haven't talked about the 8-band or whatever? And we just don't know enough yet. Like, we highlighted it in the rundown, right? So as much as we'd love to speculate on the 8-band, all we can say right now is it looks like they'll be able to munch through heavy infantry and light tanks pretty easily, but without seeing their data sheet, without knowing if they have core, without knowing their real survivability or anything like that, I am unwilling to even begin to consider them. So right now, the things that I'm excited about are Angron and Berzerkers, which is exactly how it should be. And I think that's probably a good enough closeout for everything. So as always, folks, if you haven't already, subscribe, join our Discord. The link is in the video description, where you can hear our personal thoughts on all these matters and more, and kind of ask us, I don't know, more specific questions about exactly why we're running X, Y, and Z. But it's a lot of fun, so come hang out with us there. And until then, folks, until the next video, I think we should all stay healthy, stay safe, and kill Maim burn.